So I think one of the biggest problems that me and many other students face is how to study after school when we are tired. Because this is what I've realized is a very common experience among students. I'll tell you my experience in high school. In high school, I would get home from school around 4 p.m. and I would be so drained, so tired from school that I would literally go to sleep as soon as I got home from school. Often this was the case. And I don't mean like I would come home from school at 4 p.m. and I'd take like a nice nap and then I'd wake up and get back to work. I would literally have my nighttime sleep at 4 p.m. My bedtime was literally 4 p.m. I was that tired. But the thing is, I could not afford to be tired because, okay, at least me personally, in class, I could not pay attention. Every single class time, it was like I had ADHD. I was daydreaming in class. So to be honest, the 8 hours of class for me was a complete waste of time. So all my studying I had to do after school. And university was the exact same experience for me. Class was a waste of time. All my learning took place after school. So as students, we know that after school, we need this time to study and actually get ahead in our classes. But at the same time, school drains us and it makes us tired. So how do we handle this? How do we deal with this scenario? How do we do work when we're tired? How do we stop being tired? Is there anything else we can do? So in this video, I'm going to talk about 3 tips that I've learned over the years that helped me graduate engineering school with an A while doing most of my study after school. Okay, so the first tip that I want to go through with you, I think this is huge, what I'm going to talk about here. I very rarely hear it talked about, but I think it's super important, and this is probably something that is holding you back from reaching your study potential. Because I know for me, if you're a particularly lazy student, like I know there's a video that's been going around recently that's like, if you're ambitious but lazy, watch this video. So if that's the kind of video that calls out to you, then this is the point that you're going to want to listen to. It's basically, it's a concept called second wind. So I'm going to go through this in detail. Basically, let me know if this situation is familiar with you, because this happened to me all the time. You sit down on your desk to study, or you get home from school when you know you have to be studying. But you sit down, you crack open your textbook, you crack open your essay, and suddenly a wave of tiredness hits you, a wave of negativity, a wave of exhaustion, and suddenly you have zero energy. And you can barely focus if you even try to study. And that's if you even manage to make it to your desk. Probably you get so tired, you don't even make it to your desk. Like for me, I would lie down a lot of the day and I would scroll on my phone because I was just too tired to even begin studying. So how do we handle this scenario? How do we handle this scenario where essentially the tiredness hits us when we need to study? So this is where the concept of second wind This is the concept of where second wind comes in. So what you need to understand is that often when we are tired, it's not that we're low on energy. It's not even that we need rest. Often we are just mentally exhausted. We're not physically exhausted, we're mentally exhausted. So, okay, what's the difference? It seems they're very similar, they're related, they're similar. I'll go into it here, how to handle this. So what mental exhaustion is essentially it's your brain's self-defense mechanism. So your brain is very, very smart. It wants you to avoid negative emotions. And often around studying, we have a lot of negative emotions. Boredom, comparison with other people, a feeling of perfectionism, fear. Basically, we have fear surrounding the work we want to do. And your brain is very, very smart. It wants to avoid that fear. It wants to keep you away from the work. So it's not a bad thing that your brain makes you tired, but essentially, your brain will make you tired as a way for it to get you away from the painful task of doing homework. Like maybe you notice, you got to give a public speech, you got to do something scary. Suddenly you'll get tired. Suddenly you'll feel some kind of, drainage or something. This is simply your brain's defense mechanism to get you to avoid the study. Now this is, it's great that our brain's helping us avoid negative emotions and everything, but we know that we have to push through that pain, that negative emotion, to get to the other side, to get to the rewards of getting the grades we want, getting any goal that we want. We know that, we have to push through pain. There's the cliche quote, no pain, no gain, or whatever. That's the pain that we have to deal with. Often the pain that comes between us and our goals is entirely mental. It's entirely these negative emotions that we have to push through. So see the tiredness not as like actual tiredness where you need to sleep and rest. That means you've let your brain win. See this emotional exhaustion as something that you have to push through. If you sit down and you ignore your brain and you do the work anyway, you push yourself through that pain, essentially a second wind of energy will hit you and you'll be awake, you'll be alert. So I'm sure this has happened to you before. If you think back in your past, I'm sure there were times where you were so tired, but you still had to push through. Maybe you had a deadline, maybe you were just unusually motivated, and the tiredness essentially went away. This is exactly what's going to happen when you get tired. When you're tired, just sit down and study. Another way to look at it is front load the effort. The hardest part is the beginning. If you can push through that initial pain period, you will experience higher energy for the rest of your study session. And not only should the effort be front loaded in the study session, but this happens long term as well. So if you're in a period, which I used to fall into all the time, and I still sometimes do, where you're in like a rut, where essentially every single day you're procrastinating and you can't get yourself to sit down. If you front load the effort and just for a couple days you push through, you realize this pain that your brain is putting you through is not going to last. You just sit down and you put the effort in the front. After a couple days, it'll start to become easy. Your brain will give up forcing you to be tired, and you'll push through and you'll get second wind more long term. This is how many students are able to turn up every single day and study. So, okay, how can we know it's emotional exhaustion and not physical exhaustion? Because physical exhaustion is real, don't get me wrong. You might legit be burnt out, where your body is just completely drained, you've outworked yourself and you just need to rest. But how can we tell the difference? I would be so tired after school, I couldn't sit down to study. I'd be dozing off, falling asleep. But I get a notification on my phone from my friend inviting me to hop onto Discord. Bro, the police, give me a sec. Had to close the door, someone was getting arrested. All right, so, yeah, I assume, I have no idea, I just heard the sirens. Where was I? Okay, yeah, so my friend would message me, he'd say, get onto Discord, let's go play a game of Counter-Strike, because that's the game I used to play back in the day, Counter-Strike 2017. And suddenly I'd get this surge of energy. Out of nowhere, I'd get a wave of energy, and I'd be able to lock in and focus on this game, play very, very well as well, for 2 hours. Where did this surge of energy come from? It's because I was only tired when it came to avoiding these negative emotions of studying. But when it came to these positive emotions of a fun video game, I had the energy. So how do we overcome this? One way is second wind, push through the negative emotions, and you'll start to realize that the rewards on the other side are are actually great. There was nothing to fear. It's like a wall, like a paper wall, and you're approaching this paper wall and you're like, and you're getting tired when you approach this paper wall. But it's paper. You can just push through it. Often it's better to, instead of constantly this small tiny resistance is draining you, it's pushing you, you're not getting the rewards on the other side, it's going nowhere. All you got to do is push through. And you'll come out on the other side of the paper wall with all the rewards. You'll start to realize studying wasn't that bad. You're actually starting to do pretty well. So second wind is the way to handle it. The second way is to understand your fear on a deeper level. Why are you fearing this work? Why are you avoiding it? Because, there's a part of your mind that actually wants you to study because you want to get the good grades, you want to get the dream job, you want to impress your parents, whatever. But there's also a part of your mind that is in fear. So you've got this battle going on in your mind where there's one side of your mind is bullying you, pushing you away from your work, and the other part of your mind is like a coach. He's like, come on, we want to get these good grades, we want to do well. So it's a battle going on in your mind. This is entirely mental. It's not physical. So another way to combat this is before you study, just pull out a piece of paper, pull out your journal, ideally. Journaling's an amazing habit for this. Pull out your journal and just write your thoughts down for a couple of minutes. Get your thoughts down and make it very, very clear in your mind. What exactly are you running away from? Why are you procrastinating? Because procrastination is basically, it's avoiding some kind of negative emotion. So if you write down what's going on in your mind, your genuine thoughts, and understand at the depths of your mind what you're running away from. So that's the first point, second wind. And by the way, first link in the description, I am creating a program where I go really in depth on mastering your mind to be insanely productive, and it's coming out over the next few weeks. So if you're interested in checking it out, click the first link in the description. All right, the second point I want to go through here about studying after school when you're tired is that maybe after school is not the best time to actually study. Let me explain. Maybe after school is a better time to actually do deep rest or deep play. Now, deep play is an interesting thing. I'm going to go into it. But essentially what you need to understand is that throughout the day, our energy fluctuates. So in the morning, it's the science of what's called the circadian rhythm, which is your mind's energy level throughout the day. So in the morning, our energy tends to be high. You know, we've slept and we wake up, our energy tends to be high. And I'm sure you're familiar. As the afternoon comes around, like right now it's 3 p.m., I'm experiencing this right now. Your energy will start to dip and you will reach a dip in your energy. But then as the evening comes around, your energy will come back up. I'm sure you're familiar with this experience where in the afternoon you kind of have this dip in energy. This is your circadian rhythm. And so when you get home from school in this afternoon period, honestly, it might not even be a good time to study because your energy might be low. That's the first point. Your energy might be low after school. The second point is that focus is like a muscle. And to use the muscle to its best capacity, you need to rest the muscle. And so you've been at school all day, 8 hours, 4 hours of lectures, 3 hours of workshops, whatever, and you're coming home from school. You've just been focusing all day. It honestly might be better for you to take a rest and then study after your rest. Because if you take a rest, the study session after that is going to be way more powerful because you've rested your focus muscle. Now, deep play is actually an interesting one. I got it from this book, many books actually, but the term deep play came from this book, Rest by, I want to get his name right because this is the second time I've mentioned his book, and I keep forgetting his name. So it's Rest by Alex Sujung Kim Pang. I'm guessing that's Korean. Not sure if I pronounced that right. Okay, but this guy, he wrote this book, Rest, and he talks about deep rest and deep play. So deep rest is other things that basically the opposite of focus. So things like taking a nap, taking a walk, staring at your wall, essentially stop focusing. Going on social media is focusing. Playing video games is focusing. You want to do the opposite of focus. You want to, essentially anything that isn't focusing, you want to do that thing, and that's deep rest. Now, don't get me wrong, social media, YouTube, they are, they're not focused as intense as studying. So if you do those things, it's not the end of the world. It's not like you're going to be fully drained. Like, don't tell yourself like, oh bro, I can't study right now because I just spent 2 hours on YouTube. You probably will still have the focus to study, but it's not going to be as effective as like taking a nap, literally like journaling, doing something relaxing like gardening or meditation or something like that, like genuinely setting aside time to actually rest. But the other one that's very, very interesting is deep play. So deep play, technically it's still focus, but it's using different parts of your brain to focus. So it's things like reading, sports, cooking, anything like that. And this is the one I really, really like. So for me personally, what I personally do is I put aside maybe a couple hours in the afternoon where I don't do any deep work tasks. I purposefully have this as a period where I allow my energy to replenish. So for example, in university, after lunch, I used to spend that time socializing, playing sports, going out in the sun, these kind of things, which first of all, reduced my stress. Because if you're in study mode all day, you're going to be stressed because you can't study from beginning of day to end of day. And the second thing is it gives you that intentional period to actually rest and allow your brain to just boom, compress, fully rest, fully relax. So deep play, deep rest, these things might actually be better to do after school. And I know some comments that I'm going to see in the comments below, they're going to say like, oh bro, I don't have time to deep rest, bro. I got to study as soon as I get home till when I sleep. I have no choice. Well, the thing is, if you're not resting, then this 8 hours of focus is going to be very, very ineffective compared to if you spent maybe a third of that resting and then 2/3 of it studying. You would get more done than if you spent the entire time studying because you're putting in this rest, which actually makes this next period way stronger. Now, okay, look, if this period here, you're already focusing at your full capacity, you're already super, super focused, and you just want to optimize this early 1/3 of time, okay, now we can talk. But I guarantee those people asking that question, they don't even have their evenings optimized. They don't even have the times when their energy at peak. They haven't even optimized those periods. So optimize that period first, make that as focused as possible, and then worry about trying to optimize the low energy periods, if that makes sense. So fix your bike first, fix your bike tire, and then worry about pedaling as fast as possible. Terrible analogy, but I'm sure you get the idea. Okay, video is getting kind of long, but third point I want to mention, this is I think a big one, is reduce your need to study after school. Now I know this sounds obvious, but I'm going to go into here a tip how you can actually get more work done during school. Okay, now the first thing I want to mention is I was never a big fan of studying during school. There's this common advice that goes around which says treat your school day like a 9 to 5 job where you get all your work done before school and you relax after 5 p.m. That never worked for me for two reasons. One, like I said, my focus was trash during school. But the second thing is I like to mess around during school. Yeah, I like to, mess around with my friends in university. I would go to clubs. I would explore the university life. I would do all those things. I prefer to do my studying in the evenings. But here's a tip I want to give you of how to make class time more effective. And this message is actually directed to the younger version of me who was daydreaming in class and could not focus. So it's a technique that I like to call pre-learning. I have no idea if this actually has a name, if it's actually called pre-learning. I know it's a real technique, but essentially what you do is you do some of the studying before class. And I'll tell you exactly how to do this. But basically, if you learn a little bit of the material before class, then the focus energy that's going to be required in class significantly goes down because you already kind of have a basic understanding of the material. So when you go to class, it's essentially just revision. So the way I like to see studying for a class, there's this book called Ultra Learning by Scott H. Young. And one of the principles of ultra learning very, very fast, is repetition. Essentially, to learn a subject, you need many, many repetitions of the subject to get it ingrained into your neural networks, into your mind. And so, but the thing is, when you learn a subject, every repetition you do of the subject is going to get faster and faster and faster because you understand the material better and better. So essentially what I like to do is I like to spend the first essentially what I do is before class, I do one repetition of the class. I will just briefly go over the material in class to get like a broad, like shallow understanding of the class. Kind of like I'll go through the class and I'll try to pick up as much as I can. It might take me like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, but when I do that and I go to class, I notice everything's a little bit more like, I'm a bit more directed. Because what would happen in class is I would be daydreaming for 5 minutes and then I would come back to class and I'd be completely lost. Like the teacher would be like, okay guys, 1 + 1 = 2. Then I'd daydream for 5 minutes thinking about this guy who bullied me 10 years ago. Then I'd come back to class and the teacher would be solving, general relativity formulas or something. I'd be completely lost. But if I had pre-learned the material before class, I would know where we were. Essentially, I would miss 5 minutes, but I wouldn't be lost because I would have the general map of the class. So even literally spending 10 minutes just kind of briefly going over the class will significantly reduce your need to be paying so much attention in class. And it will actually, in a weird way, it'll make your classes more effective. Because previously, you were doing zero learning in class, and now you're actually making use of your class time. Because the thing is, you need to do that pre-learning period anyway, whether it's before class or after class. So why not front load it and just do it before class so that you can make the class time less mindless, more focused, and you can actually get more done during the school hours. So that's it. Hope these tips helped. But yeah, first link in the description is my program that's coming out. It's going to be releasing over the next couple of weeks. I'm pretty excited for it. But if you come in now, if you join now, you'll get an early access discount because it's being released right now, step by step. So check out the first link in the description. I help you get to the root of your productivity issues, and I teach you everything I know about how to master your mind, to focus, to get your dream grades, and to actually enjoy studying and do it stress-free. So if you're interested, click the first link in the description. Otherwise, see you later.